Phil is our favorite barroom philosopher. Today, he's reflecting on what he calls the hyperreality of politics.
Listen, guys, even you in the back, you've been watching the campaign. Haven't any of you noticed that political campaigns are no longer about issues and governance? They have become a kind of storytelling or even a mode of fiction writing, where the public is caught up in the emotions of a fabricated narrative. This shift toward hyperreality becomes the framework through which modern politicians conduct what they call democratic politics. Think about it. Politicians and their teams spend their time distorting the historical meaning of words for emotional effect to avoid addressing the real issues behind the words. This isn't about misinformation, it's about confusing the public's thinking. So what are we seeing today? Donald Trump has assigned to himself the task of constructing his own narrative utterly free from the constraints of history or truth. Contrast that with Kamala Harris's adherence to the House rules of political discourse, albeit still firmly within the same framework of hyperreality that has already changed the meaning of the words it employs. In this sense, both are engaging in different forms of the same game, manipulating meaning to suit their essentially electoral aims. The worst thing about it is that they end up practicing pretty much the same politics. So, everyone's talking about a threat to democracy, and this being the last election. The word democracy itself has become a rhetorical tool devoid of consistent meaning. Both sides of the political spectrum use the term democracy to vilify their opponents, reducing it to a mere slogan rather than a meaningful concept. The basic truth everyone in the media avoids talking about is the fact that while language evolves, values undergo change and worldviews are reshaped over time, political minds seem stuck in static, anachronistic interpretations of terms like democracy and freedom. No one in the media wants to talk about this disconnect between language and reality because it might oblige them to engage in an activity that has now been delegated to AI. What am I talking about? Thinking, of course. You know, using your living brain cells. If you don't analyze language, you can't construct meaningful thought. AI produces language, but only humans, living in their social reality, can use language to think. So, while the art of fiction is thriving in politics, thinking has been banished. The manipulation of language leads to a political system where truth becomes secondary to narrative, and where the boundaries between fiction and fact blur to the point of irrelevance. So what do the politicians do with that? They use it to mount a crusade against what they arbitrarily decide to call disinformation. They do so while producing, in practically every sentence they utter, the worst examples of it. That, my friends, is what we're going to be voting about in just a few weeks. Raise your glasses, guys. Here's to freedom and democracy.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.